Welcome back to the X Podcast. Sitting here with Mr. Zachary Brown.
Yeah.
Miss Maria.
Hi.
A returning favorite. The last time you were on was when? Put you on the spot.
I don't know. I've done the Inspired podcast.
Yes, but you've also been on the X Podcast.
Yes, a couple times, but it's been a while.
Have you done one on conspiracy theories on the X Podcast?
We had your kindred spirit, though. We've had Jesse James on for...
Yeah, but Maria has some interesting takes on some conspiracy theories, and it's fun.
That would be fun
to talk about. We need to get her talking about Michael Jackson.
Oh, you love Michael Jackson.
I love Michael Jackson.
Did you like the movie?
I loved the movie.
You know what's wild is... So, obviously, I love going to theater. I go every Thursday. But that movie's still in theaters. Like, It's wild how long that movie has lasted in theaters.
Did you see it?
I still haven't seen it. I need to.
So
I know, but...
So good. I saw it twice. That's the first movie. One of the first movies I've seen twice. I did see the second Wicked movie twice as well.
Did he do bad things?
I was wondering how you were going to phrase that.
You can't ask me that.
Okay, we'll bring you back on.
No way to know.
Well, really, what we need to do is we need to bring you back on for a hot takes episode.
Yes.
That would be great.
That would be good.
That would be fun. So I'm going to just... But we got a topic today that I'm going to immediately throw to Mr. Zach Brown because he wants to put me and Maria on the hot seat.
I am going to put you on the hot seat.
So...
Take it away?
Take it away.
So, this is the middle of summer, which, by the way, as of the day of this recording, your brand new book, Fire Breather, is launched into the world.
It's out.
It's out. Anything you want to say about that?
Well, kudos to you. You were one of the people that helped make it better. You were one of the peer editors, and it's out. I'll just say that this one has been a 2-year journey.
Yeah.
It's been a grind, but it's been surreal. I always feel just it's great. People say, are very kind whenever you release something into the world, but the most special thing is like when the people you do life with are with you in the journey. And so being able to share a message that means a lot to me with our faith community the last 2 weeks has been really special. And today had a lot of Alana PT touch on it, but to come in and have just like a little fun little celebration moment in the office with my friends meant a lot. Cool. So, Fire Breather, How Your Words Create Your World. I'm a big believer from Scripture and my own life that our words have unimaginable power. And so it's on Amazon. You can find it and get your copy.
Yep. I'm sure we can maybe put that in the notes somewhere on the on this podcast. But it's appropriate, Fire Breather, because it feels like there's fire being breathed outside. As you step outside, it's hot, it's summer. And I feel like summer around here is always a time for us to really focus on families, on kids, on students. We have kids night that always happens in the summer. We have XYC that happens in the summer. And we have been trying to take some time over the course of this year with the X Podcast to make space to have conversations that impact us on an everyday faith level. The big fancy church word is discipleship. And so let's have some more intentional conversations around that. And so I thought, let's just take some of our time this summer and let's talk about something that impacts all of us, and that's relationships. And so we're going to do kind of a two-parter here. We're going to talk about today dating, and then you got to come back next week because we're going to talk about marriage and all things that come with that. But I have got some friends with me today, with Pastor Russ and Maria, who, I don't know how anyone would say this, but they are.
We're not married.
They're not married. Yes.
What do you have to say?
I don't know. Yeah, thank you.
They are dating, but not each other.
They're dating, but not each other. Yes, they're dating, but not each other. And I think you guys are going to have a lot to offer and to say and to bring some wisdom around this because let's be real. It is kind of a wild jungle out there when it comes to dating and trying to figure out what this looks like and the right way to go. And so I just thought, let's just jump in and have a conversation around it. So I just thought, let's start with kind of this base, which is like, hey, describe to me what dating is like right now. Because I feel like it goes through evolutions and changes, and it's changing all the time. But if you are single right now and you're trying to date, you're trying to find somebody, what does that process look like right now? And if you feel comfortable, bring as much as your experience has been like over the last 12 to 18 months in that process. Who wants to start?
Well, I believe in being a gentleman, and so I'm going to allow Miss Maria to to go first.
When I think so, one thing that I think is a little bit unique about this conversation is obviously we're not 18, and
right.
and so one of the things is when you're young or in your early 20s is the dating pool is like everyone, and so you always have like a couple friends who are like, oh, I know a couple guys that you might be interested in. But as you get to be my age, that starts to really slim down. You don't have as many friends with single friends anymore. And if you do, it's like, okay, why are they single if they're my age? And so I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. If they're in their 30s or older, it's like, okay, and they're single, it's like, okay, so that doesn't immediately write you off. But yeah, I usually am like, okay, what's the reason behind that? And maybe it's, well, I spent time working on my career, or maybe they just went through like bad divorce or whatever the case may be. But dating for me, I feel like the easiest approach has always been dating apps. That's what they really push. Find someone on an app. And if you do that, then all of a sudden you're casting a wide net. Suddenly there's 50 eligible bachelors in Columbus that have similar interests as you and things like that. And so then it gets really hairy. And I don't know if you want me to keep going, but
No. I think that's a good intro for now. I will say your point about dating like teenager, like early 20s, that sort of thing. The statistics actually show that people are getting married later and later now. So like it's not uncommon for most people to step into marriage late 20s or even early 30s now, is when people are actually getting married. And so I actually find this more relevant now than ever, that by the time people are actually, okay, I'm ready to settle down and get married and do all that thing, it's later in life now than ever. So turn to you. What's it like out there?
There's so many places we could go. I mean, I agree with her in the sense that the older you get, the more it's like, okay, most people as you get older are either married or engaged or, just buried in their career or decide they don't want to get married. Also, you're getting older when the first thing you're looking for is, wait, do they have a ring on? And then how old are they? And what's their place in life? And I think people go a lot of different places. Some people are like so against the apps or so for the apps. I've never really done the apps, but like I'm not against them. Like I don't know why I've never really done them. Some people are like, oh, that just destroys. Like, and I'm like, this is the worst place we've ever been. People are on apps like, no, we used to cart off the youngest daughter for a pair of cows and pigs and have arranged marriages. This is not the worst it's ever been. Yeah. We have people in our church that are pretty honest about, hey, we met on a dating app, and like our leaders in our church is like, God wrote a beautiful story out of it. So I don't think we should limit how God can work and how fairy tale it needs to play out. I do think it is an interesting phase where, and everybody's in different places in life. Maria has kids. I don't. One of the things I enjoy when possible is to have that rendezvous where you kind of just by happenstance meetings. And so it's one of the reasons, not the main reason, but because I'm kind of an environmental extrovert. At times I have met people because I'm randomly at North Star or I'm, randomly at this coffee shop, and I'm I think putting myself in places where there might be somebody in my general age or place in life, interest range, where I can bump into them. And then I don't know how you feel about this, but it's strange because if you're a person of faith, want to meet somebody that's of faith. So in some ways, church is the best and worst place to meet someone. Yeah. Especially if you're in a role in church. So it's like it could be a great place to meet because you're like, okay, this doesn't mean you're in love with Jesus, but the chances are higher. And we already have this in common. And it's a natural, you're no longer in school. So if you're in church or work, it's a natural place to meet. But then it's like, oh, but that's a risk.
Yeah.
Because then if it doesn't work out or, so that would be just my opening remarks. Opening remarks.
No, that's really good. It's honest. I appreciate that. Question follow-up then for both of you, because this is immediately my first thoughts go to, okay, so whether you're in an app or you're in a spot where you're at North Star or whatever, or however you meet someone, I think what you're describing is almost, I've even heard people like Scott Galloway and others describe that's almost like a lost art, like the ability to like go up to someone, like have a conversation. Or now, people are, this is probably, I'm going to date myself with this phrase, sliding into the DMs or like having a conversation or like doing whatever. Like, what does it look like to actually begin a conversation with someone? Because sometimes I think that like getting over that barrier, either psychologically or even just like social anxieties on the rise, like that is like a really hard thing to kind of like, for lack of a better term, you're just putting yourself out there. Like you have to take a risk, you have to take a chance, and that can be really scary for a lot of people. So like, how do you overcome that? What does that look like? How do you have the courage to go do that, the confidence to go do that? Like, what does that look like for you? I'll start with you in North Star, doing all that.
Well, it's funny. I've probably told this story before, but just you mentioned North Star and you mentioned confidence and you mentioned walking up. One of the funniest stories ever was when I was writing the book Confidence. And there's a girl beside me as I'm ordering, and we kind of hit it off. And, but then I felt awkward because I've just, I don't know why, but probably to a fault, I've just never wanted to be that guy. I hear just so many, women just talk about, man, creepy guys are always trying to hit on me. And I've just, so probably to a detriment, I've just maybe been a little bit, I'm not a shy person, but shy in that way that I just don't usually go up to women and, but anyways, it was so funny because there's a lot
of cultural pressure because I do think that's a real thing. And if you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, you could get in trouble.
You could.
Yeah.
You have to have a high level of EQ. You have to really be able to read where they're at. You really do have to have an insane level of confidence where rejection is not personal if they shut you down. You have to do it in the right way. But yeah, long story short, I ordered, and the person ordering was like, oh, are y'all together? I was like, no, and I felt awkward. And then I took my food over there. I'm writing the book on confidence, and the guy that works there, the manager at North Star knows me, and he goes, hey, I think that girl kind of was like digging on you because when I took her food, I was like, do you know Russ? And she goes, well, no, but I thought he was going to ask me for dinner. And I was like, oh. So then I'm writing the book on confidence. Have you heard me tell this?
I don't know.
So I was like, okay, so I'm writing the book, and I'm like, dang it, I can't be that big of a hypocrite. Okay, so I close my MacBook and I walk over to her and I said, her name was Courtney. I said, hey, Courtney. And I came from her blind spot while she's eating, scared her to death. She jumped. She goes, ah. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I just thought you should know that they accidentally brought me the vegan burger because you ordered it. And I just thought you would think it's funny. And she goes, oh, okay. And I said, all right, well, I'm going to go sit down now. So I go and I sit down. And I was like, man, dude, this is why I don't do this. And then 10 minutes later, she comes, sits down, and was just like, hey, I just wanted to just get to know you. And she goes, I'm sorry, I was weird a moment ago. You scared me. And she asked me what I was writing, and I told her, and she literally said, how come the person writing the book on confidence didn't have enough confidence to just come up and ask me for dinner? I thought this is the most brutal, funniest call out. But I think, for me, my short answer would be one of the reasons I like to put myself in places, whether it's church or coffee shops, is I like when relationships happen organically. I think people underestimate that. That is the great benefit to those that are like high school sweethearts, met in high school or college, is it happen organically. One of the moments that happened for me where I actually did begin a relationship for 4 or 5 months is it was at a coffee shop, but I had the great advantage. There were no other tables. So me and this person had to sit down at the same table, and we ended up striking up conversation, and it was just natural. So my personality wiring, as extroverted as I am, is not typically, for lack of better words, a cold call. Like in sales, you have to cold call. It's not to just walk up to somebody and try to find a non-creepy way to. It's to, okay, how can I find a natural connection point? And I'm probably not the greatest person to say how to do that because I prefer more organic moments. But I don't even know if that even answers your question.
No, I think it's trying to that initial like see cute girl, meet cute girl. Like I just think that that is a challenging interaction, whether it's digital or face to face or whatever. So I'm curious, like for you, like what's that process like? Trying to bridge that gap and have that sort of conversation.
Everything he said sounds terrifying to me. Not as like a recipient, but if like that was how I was going to meet someone, is I have to go up and strike up conversation. Oh my gosh, it would be horrible. It would be horrible. Like I am just so, when I'm out in public, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope nobody talks to me. And it's funny because I am an extrovert, but I'm not as extroverted when I don't know anybody. So yeah, I'm definitely not that way.
No, but so boy messages you on an app.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So do you use apps?
Not currently.
Yeah.
No. But if I feel like in an app situation where you're on a dating app, that kind of shows, okay, I'm willing to meet somebody, you're willing, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
But when we go to like social media and somebody that you don't know adds you, messages you, that's a little bit more like, okay, I know why you're here and you don't know me. You don't know what I have going on in my life. It just feels, to me, that's a little bit, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say
Really? Okay. Can you give me an example? Because as you're talking, I'm thinking about, while I've not used apps, I've met a couple people through social media.
that. Yeah.
Those people that you're like, wait, I don't even remember how we became
Right.
social media friends.
Yeah. I mean, especially if a guy randomly adds me and we have zero mutual friends, I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's a red flag.
Now, if we have some mutual friends and they're mutual friends of, say, somebody that I do know and I do talk to, it's not like some random person that I've met 15 years ago, but somebody in my current life, I might shoot them a message. Hey, PZ, do you know this guy? Yeah, he's a good guy. Okay. Then I might be more willing. But more often than not, that's not the case. More often than not, it's like somebody I'm like, okay, you've probably added 15 girls today.
It's a rando that
That's what they're after, is just to cast a wide net. And I'm like, why not just do that on an app? If that's what you're looking for, look for it in a place where someone is open and willing in that platform.
Makes sense. One thing I am curious on before we move on, I think there's like kind of an old-fashioned notion, for lack of a better term, and it could have some roots within a faith context, but I don't know. But I mean, at least I was always raised growing up, hey, a guy or a man should always make the first move. I'm curious. It feels like it's more 50-50 now than ever, guys and girls making the first move. Does it matter? Do you guys think it matters? Do you have a preference? Do you want a guy to make the first move? Do you want to make the first move? Do you care if a girl makes the first move? Like, what's your? I'm just curious what the vibe of this table is when it comes to the conversation. Is there a right way? Let me ask that question.
I think for initial interaction, no. I think gender doesn't need to play a role in that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like. I don't think that it's like I'm waiting on a guy to come approach me necessarily. I think that I think the ball is in both courts at this point. Now, like down the line, I'm not expecting like, okay, how do I say this? I would like him to still be chivalrous in the sense of opening doors and treating me more like in that way. So
Yeah.
I think making the first move of like, okay, we talked, we had one conversation. He asked me to coffee or I asked him to coffee. Okay. But then I would expect him to have some decent follow-up to that. I made a first big gesture. I would expect you to reciprocate. I'm not going to do all the legwork going on here on out. I'm not going to determine where we're going and, all that type of stuff. Like, I want
intentional.
Yes.
Yeah. So chivalry is not dead.
No.
Not dead.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I think we could use a resuscitation of chivalry. And so I don't know. I think I would agree with everything she said. I think I will say it was interesting moving from the South, even to Kentucky and here, because I feel like there is a more there's probably a little bit more of an old school in the South of men are expected to take, and so there is I don't know how to phrase it, but there's intentionality. I feel like equal intentionality the further you move up north, in male and female. It's a big
regional difference.
Yeah, well, I was going to say not stereotype, but yeah, there is a regional difference in that I've noticed. It's probably a little bit more old-fashioned in the South in terms of men make the first move.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong, or I think things play out the way they play out, but that eventually there should be intentionality, like she said, of a guy saying, okay, this is what I want to... I want to show you that I'm somewhat serious, and that I actually care, and that I'm not just playing along for the ride. Especially, like you said, like the older you get in life.
Yeah,
that is at this point, it's not really for most people around our age. I mean, me and her are both around 25.
Yeah.
For most people, once you get about 25, it's not you're not in a playground.
Yeah,
is not the goal.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I do think that. I just mentioned the statistics earlier, people getting married later in life. And the truth is the later in life you get, there's really no other better word for it, but it's not even necessarily all bad, but just there's baggage that comes with life. There's experiences, there's life events, there's things that have happened that have shaped and formed you as you're trying to date. And so inevitably, whenever you make a connection, whether it's through an app or social media or physical, like in person, face to face, like there's some sort of like sifting through like the that person and the baggage that they're bringing into the conversation and trying to like even decide, is this someone like worth putting myself out there for, or even worth going on a date for? How do you even begin to filter that down and like decide if someone's even worth your time to invest in spending time with? Like what I'm very curious, like for you specifically, both of you, what is your filter for that, and what you kind of look for that?
Well, first off, I was when we were talking earlier about the age thing, I have a little bit of not necessarily pushback, but, and probably all of our algorithms are different too, and our outlook on life's different. I kind of feel like there are equal pros and cons of getting married younger or older.
I don't know if there is.
You know, because and part of it too is what part of the country you're in, whether you're in the city. Like people in the city just statistically get married older and older because there's such a career focus.
Yeah.
And values tend to be different in the city, good or bad. But then also, part of even me being gun shy was I had a lot of friends early in life that, I mean, were great, integrous, Jesus-loving people who married really young to who seemed to be healthy, Jesus-loving people, and 95% of them. I mean, by the time quarter-life crisis hit, the spouse had cheated and the whole thing was blown up. And so there's a way in which sometimes, the older you get, the more baggage there are. For a lot of people, it's also like, oh, no, I'm so glad I didn't get married younger because now I know who I am.
Yeah.
Now I've done the work. But then there's also the other part of like, there's also incredible benefits for people who do get married young, to start having kids young, to grow that responsibility young. And so part of it, I just want to say to anybody listening, like, for me, it's been a freeing perspective, at least my perspective, curious yours, of like, there's not a right or wrong timing. Like everybody's story is so different.
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons to each one. And like all of the important thing is not when you find that one, but who you become.
Yeah.
The earlier you can become who you're called to become, you'll eventually attract the right person at the right time. But I think for me, filter, I think sometimes we either make it really superficial or we try to make it really super spiritual. I do think attraction, anybody that says attraction doesn't matter is lying. Like there's got to be a natural attraction of somebody that you're drawn to. And I think in that mix there's physical attraction and emotional, like chemical personality attraction. I think it's all in the mix there. I think the older you get, the more you can't pick up on patterns of maybe I think there could be compatibility here. I think even just personality-wise, there's like some you probably meet people that you're like, oh, that guy's cute, and then you talk to him for like 5 minutes, you're like, we would not get along.
Yeah.
Like we would kill each other. Or we're so different. I know opposites attract, but we're so different, just like what we want in life, and just our vibes would just not vibe. Mm-hmm. So I think part of it is that ethereal mix of attraction and chemistry. And then, the older you get, the more that you want to be intentional. I think early on, depending on where you meet, the kind of questions you ask, I want to get a pulse for a spiritual life. Mm-hmm. What kind of spiritual substance is there? And if there seems to be those two things, I think that's probably a good starting place of why not go on a date?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I think you can pick up on a lot of those things you're saying from pretty initial conversation, especially in dating apps. I mean, I try to be, you get through the initial, hi, how are you? Where are you from? That kind of stuff. Like, what's your life like? And then, one of my first questions is like, what are your plans for this weekend? And they're thinking, oh, we're about to go on a date. And I'm about to say, I want to hear if you say church is on that list.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And so
that's really good.
If they're like, oh, I got to work, and then, Sunday I usually do my meal prep and all that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, well, I hope you have fun. And then I'm out. And the reason
that's so good.
It's not to say that someone doesn't have a real faith in that. But for me, it's like one thing that I've realized as I've gotten older is checking the box of, yes, I'm a Christian. Yes, I have faith. Doesn't mean that we're going to be in the same place in our faith journey.
Mm-hmm. Definitely not.
And so that's one thing that I want to know. Is where are you in your faith journey? Is God something that you do on the weekend or maybe once in a while? Or is God like is the Holy Spirit living and breathing in your life? Like, what's the evidence of that? Because that's where I'm at in my faith journey. And especially being a woman, I'm looking for a spouse. I'm looking for a husband that can lead my family in that area. And so I want to know that. So that those things, I mean, like I said, it is easy to figure out pretty early on, kind of where they're at. And so that is the nice thing about apps is you can quickly.
That's really good. I think anybody that's listening, especially on an app, what a great approach. I think when we're, two thoughts that popped in my mind. Again, I'm no expert. You're like, bring y'all's thoughts. I'm like, I don't know how much I have to offer other than I do think when you are looking for someone and you're a follower of Jesus and you're looking for someone with spiritual compatibility, the two words that come to my mind are depth and chronology. I think those two things matter. Because like you said, what's the old phrase? Being in church doesn't make you a Christian any more than sitting in a garage makes you a car. So is there a depth? Is there an excitement? Is there an engagement? What's your Jesus story? Like, tell me your story of how you came to faith. I want to know it's not an inherited parent's faith. It's your faith. Mm-hmm. It's active. What does your rhythm with God look like? How do you connect with God? I think these kind of things shows you that. And I think chronology matters. And what I mean by that is, I always tell people, were they following Jesus before they met you? Yeah. Because so often I think there's a hopefulness in us. As Stephen Furtick said, pick according to pattern, not potential. Mm-hmm. There's a hopefulness in us of, they said they'd come with me to church. Well, I bet they did.
Yeah.
If they think you're hot and they have a chance, I bet they are all about.
Right.
I think they're really, it's like, depth and chronology, and chronology. Before they met you, did they have a relational track with Jesus?
Yeah. And I would go one step further and say, if this relationship doesn't work out, would they still be pursuing Jesus? Mm-hmm. Because I think you find a lot of relationships where it's like, he's in church every week now and all that. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, she just wants to be friends. He's gone.
Yeah.
He's not in church anymore. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? If you feel like this guy is, or girl, whoever, is how are they pursuing God? How is it their own? And it's not just for you, because everyone does put their best face forward when they're, especially in those initial conversations. So
this is probably exaggeration, but they say on your first date, everyone's lying.
Yeah.
Like even if you're not intentionally lying, you are just showing everything the best.
Exaggerating the good, downplaying the bad.
Is that true for both of you?
Probably
on your first dates.
Probably not intentionally lying.
No, I know that, but like,
I feel like I'm pretty unapologetically me in any setting I'm in. Like I don't feel like but I'm sure even if it's subconscious. Like I'm probably going to dress even nicer the first date. I'm probably going to I'm not going to be. I think so much of relationships is who's going to open up a little bit here first, then the other person. Okay, then who's going to open up a little bit more? As trust builds, who's going to open up a little bit more? It's almost like this Russian roulette back and forth of, okay, I'm going to give you the gun. Yeah. Please don't shoot me with it. Okay, now I'm going to, and so in some ways, I think it'd be weird EQ to, on the first date, be like, so all my secrets. Yeah. All my baggage.
Right.
I'm curious, your framework is, both of you guys' frameworks is really good. I love some of that thought process. What's your Jesus story? What is your walk like? What does that look like? Your question is, what are you doing on the weekends? What do you have like a Russ more? Because I'm sure you don't sit down with someone, and maybe you do, and you're like, so tell me your Jesus story. Like that, like when you're talking with a girl, like that.
I want to make it feel like an interview.
Yes, exactly. No, like do you have like a go-to like question or like a way to like get in that conversation with someone?
Well, one of the things, unfortunately / fortunately, that always happens, I say this kind of tongue-in-cheek, is people ask, what do you do? And so usually when they ask what I do, and I reveal the big part of my profession, I work at a church, that usually spurs conversation immediately, one way or another. Now, unfortunately, sometimes I've had situations, this happened in the North Star situation, where they played up. It's like, oh, yeah, and sometimes people will reach for like I just saw this Jesus movie, or I just saw this, and so it's like, oh, okay. And I think naturally once that person knows what you do and the faith card's on the table, there's just some natural ways to be like, oh, yeah, like for me, I'm really passionate about this, and like, what about you? Mm-hmm. And then just kind of let them talk. And people will kind of either take that rope and not hang themselves, but people will take that rope and go somewhere with it.
Yeah. So, as you said, people often, and I remember this, even when I found Rebecca at 22, 23 years old. And so, like, I was a little bit younger. But even back then, you're still putting the best version of yourself forward. You're putting out the version that you think the other person wants. So, while you think that, okay, this person has potential, you don't know everything about them. But that's the whole point of dating, is you go on dates to try to figure that out. So what's the art of the first date? Like, what does that look like? What is that conversation like, especially in 2026? I mean, is it casual? Is it formal? Is it fancy? Is it not fancy? Are you like you said, are you putting everything out there right away? Are you not are you holding your cards back? And some of this is preference. I get that, but I just want to know and be as vulnerable as possible. Like, just what does that look like, and how do you begin to go from okay, I filtered down to maybe this person at least has potential of I want to have more conversations, to now I want to go on a date with them.
I'll tell you what I do, and then Maria can say what part that resonates or terrifies her. So this is probably the old school, old-fashioned side of me, but once it's obvious, or it's somewhat clear, both of us would enjoy to go on a date, I will just say something like, hey, I'd love to take you to dinner sometime. And what I did for the longest time, this is how old school I am. I love the idea of dinner and a movie. But I also know that during a movie you can't talk, and for some people that's intimidating, and so I hadn't done that as much the last few years, but I love the idea of I'm going to pick a nice, and part of your initial conversations a lot of times are you find out what kind of food each other likes. And so finding a place maybe they haven't tried, but would it be in the vicinity of the kind of food they like? Hey, this nice place. And I do think, I don't think this is a stereotype. I think most women appreciate someone who will help plan but also not control it. And so what I've usually done is said, hey, would you like to go to dinner sometime? And if they say yes, be like, hey, so here's a few different restaurants. I think it'd be awesome. What do you feel about one of these? And if they say yes, I'll go ahead and make reservations. And then the old school side of me, chivalrous, the guy would pick the girl up. a lot of females watch crime documentaries these days. So that is a
Guilty.
terror. So, I think last year I said something. The restaurant was near where she was, and I just kind of just used humor. Hey, if you trust that I'm not a serial killer, I can pick you up on the way. And usually they're like, okay, yeah, I appreciate that. So that's about, I don't know if that's too detailed or less detailed, but that's...
No,
yeah.
but like, I mean, do you have questions that you're asked? Like what, like even, is the day just continue more of the filtering process just as you go?
Yeah, to me it's just kind of like, I don't know how you feel, but at the age of 25, again, there's a level of you want to be serious, but I also think you shouldn't make a first date too serious. Because there's a lot of pressure already that people feel, I think, on a first date. So I think allowing it to breathe and just see if you connect and have fun. And I think usually by the end of a first date, people can tell, okay, we connect. Seems like either we connect and have enough in common value-wise that we probably want to go on a second date, or we don't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think don't take it too seriously. I've gone on dates that have been like the coffee shop first date. I've done the dinner first date, or the even one guy we went to like Topgolf. So I mean, kind of different things. And it's I've never found one that I'm like, this is the right thing to do.
No, there is no.
I think anywhere you can have conversation, because it is a little bit of that vetting process. Like, let's just hang out and let's both just take this for what it is. We just met each other. What's your life like? What do you know? And I think you'll pick up on a lot very early, especially after you've been around the block for a little bit, to kind of be like, okay, I like what you were saying before is I kind of know what this pattern is it actually looks like in your life, or this is something that like I see in you that probably wouldn't really mesh with me, or maybe it really would. Different things like that. You pick up that.
Which, by the way, not to get all spiritual, but since part of this formation, one of the definitions of wisdom is pattern recognition.
Yeah.
I'm a fool when I still can't recognize patterns or recognize them and ignore them. And so in any area of life, I think part of the success in life is how quickly can you pick up on patterns and make healthy decisions based on them.
Yeah, I feel like I've dug myself into a hole a little bit, because there are so many things that I've grown to pick up on patterns and things. Like, as soon as I find out a guy, it's like, okay, you seem great. You're telling me all the things that I want to hear. And then I'll take a quick look at your social media profile. And then you quickly see a very different side of them. And you're like, okay, now I know. And so...
Wait, okay, not to take over the conversation, but let's go to red flags for a minute. So what is it you see on social media that you're like, uh-oh, no?
Gosh, I don't want to, like, offend people. I'm trying to think of... You mean, like, in terms of overall, or just in that scenario? Social media?
Yeah, sure.
In social media, if I go to a guy's profile and most of his pictures on his profile are selfies of him, I'm like, okay, so you need a lot of attention. You're a lot of attention-seeking behavior, a lot of needing affirmation from other people, especially if it's like their profile is them like without a shirt flexing or something. You're like, okay, I know what kind of guy you are. And that's fine, but that's not the kind of guy that I'm looking for.
I need to take mine down.
Yeah. And then, yeah, other things are just like, okay, are you constantly partying with your friends, or like that sort of thing? I would say in social media specifically.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you have any other red flags you would mention generally?
Yeah, like obviously the church one that I talked about.
Yeah, that was a big one.
This might be a hot take, but super recently divorced or out of a relationship that's I would consider a serious relationship, feels a little bit like, okay, I'm your rebound, especially on dating apps. People are like, okay, I want to win the breakup. I think that's How I Met Your Mother reference. My significant other, we broke up and now, she's moved on or he's moved on. I need to move on quick. Okay. How do I do that? Dating app. Okay. I have a dating app. I need to make sure that soon I have a picture of me and somebody else to post on my profile so my ex can see it.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, so what, and so that's one of those questions I'll ask kind of early on, like, okay, so what's your dating history like? And if it's like, I've been taking a break from dating, or maybe, it's been a while, or I got divorced a while ago or whatever, that's okay. Let's keep the conversation going. If it's like, a couple months ago I got divorced. Okay. So what does your healing journey look like? Because now your healing journey is now shrunk down to, 2 months?
2 months, yeah.
And having been in that situation, I know a lot of what that healing journey needs to look like. Mm-hmm. So those are some red flags for me.
What are your red flags? Specifically for you?
There's the obvious stuff, the faith stuff we've talked about. Those are more like non-negotiables maybe than red flags. But I think, I probably have more than I'm thinking about, but a couple that come to mind would be, like you mentioned, the healing journey. Because the older you get, there are ways in which life happens, and we all have stuff. Mm-hmm. I think what someone's intentionality is for their internal emotional health is really big. So like a big thing for me is maybe this, I don't know if this is necessarily a red flag. Something that really matters a lot to me is, do you have wise, faith-filled people in your life that speak into your life? Mm-hmm. And do you listen? That's like big for me. Like who's speaking into your life? And do you have faith people speaking into your life? And do you listen when they speak into your life? Like that's really big for me. And then I think, just because we were talking about this earlier, but this is probably a separate conversation. There's a lot of gender wars happening right now.
No.
I think almost more than it seems like any other time in history, and it goes both ways. But if you're just constantly posting, both ways. If a guy's constantly posting about girls, everything he hates about girls and bashing girls, or vice versa, right. you whether you realize it or not, you're screaming to the world where you're not healed, and that you still are addicted to emotional bondage in the past, and or that there's something in you that keeps attracting an unhealthy kind of person. And so I think we should fight for each other, not against each other. I think men and women should fight for each other. And gender bashing, male bashing, as a male specifically, when I see a lot of male bashing or, man, guys just need it, that is a quick turnoff.
Yeah.
It's good. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different directions we could go, things we haven't covered. But for the sake of time, I want to maybe close or land the plane on this thought or ask this question, and maybe we can come back and have a second conversation because there's more questions I have that I didn't get a chance to ask. But I think one of the big things I remember my parents teaching me about, and this was just always my thought process about dating, but it's what's the purpose of dating? Is the purpose of dating to get married? Can you find purpose in just dating to get to know yourself or get to know other people with the idea that something that could come around? Because I think that how you answer that question determines a lot of your behavior while you are dating and while you're looking for dates. And so I'm just curious. I think as I look around the landscape, and this is just my perspective as a middle life married man who's been married for 12 years, I see more people waiting to get married. And for a lot of people, they're looking for relationships, yes, but they're not necessarily looking for marriage. And they're just looking to find someone that they can spend time with, that they enjoy hanging out with. I even saw someone on my social media the other day who has been married, not married, and now is basically roommates, but not even dating someone of a different gender, and that has now turned into a dating relationship, but they have no intention of getting married. There's a lot of different definitions for what this looks like in all that's in the world. How do you even begin? And I want you guys to start very personal with both of you and your approach to dating. But then I want you to take a step back then and analyze, because you both are people of faith and you've talked about your faith and how that's important for you in your dating. What's a good way for a Christian man or woman to think about the purpose of dating and why we date in the world today?
You want me to go first or you?
I can go. My thought on this has changed over the years because I would say 10 to 15 years ago, I would have been like, the only purpose of dating is to get married. But I feel like now, I feel like dating is where you learn the patterns, like what you were talking about. Dating is where you learn what you like and what you don't like about people, but I don't feel like it's, and I would say that's in the initial dating phase. I wouldn't say like you should date someone for multiple years if you know that you never are going to marry that person. I don't think that's the answer. But I think getting to know people and getting to know I even think about dating apps as like, I need to learn how to talk about myself in a way that's like, how do I tell people what I'm thinking or who I am without just like, okay, here's my favorite color. This is where I live. Like, how do you articulate your passions? How do you articulate who you are as a person? So I feel like you can't really do that without really practicing. Now, I don't mean that in terms of hookups and dating like that. I just mean if you're going to meet someone for coffee, I think that every time you go meet someone for coffee doesn't mean like this better end in marriage or else this is a failure. I think that is an opportunity for you to practice and get to know somebody and maybe but I think if you're going to be in a long-term relationship, I would never suggest like living together or anything like that. I would suggest if you're going to be in a committed relationship, that goal needs to be marriage.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because I think, again, when you get older, just stakes are different, life's different. But I think to put the pressure immediately on, well, you said to start personal. So I would say, like, for me, like, I've gone long seasons where I just don't date. And part of that is, and this is one of the dangers when you get older, is you learn how to do life on your own. Mm-hmm. and I enjoy life on my own. There's part of me that when I've been single, like, I told Pastor Tim and Don't Wing It, talked about me in the chapter, said I have a friend who's mastered the art of being single. And I told him, I was like, I don't know if this is an insult or a compliment. I don't know that I want to master the art of being single, but I do enjoy, those times in my life of being single and kind of doing what I want. But there have been times too where I've just felt like, okay, I need to put myself back out there. I need to start being more open to go on dates. And I think that's okay to not be like, I'm going to go on a date with this person because I think this is going to lead to marriage. But to be like, no, like I want to open myself back up to be open to this. Mm-hmm. And I think that'd be healthy for me to do that in a healthy way. But I agree with her in terms of, but the moment it starts moving somewhere, there's that Andy Stanley book, The Principle of the Path. Everything's moving somewhere. The moment hearts start becoming attached and there's a dating process, I know everyone's different, and so that whatever floats your boat. But I don't understand how, especially when you're an adult, you can start moving somewhere, knowing the longer that you move together, hearts are becoming attached. To use real big language, soul ties could even become formed, and there's a connection there without intentionality of we're moving towards commitment. I've never seen that happen that didn't eventually end up in pain or destruction. Because God's design is for there to be a context, a covenant in which you healthily consummate where you're moving together, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I think when you play house or you play like your spouses but never move with intentionality, I've never seen it where one of them doesn't get hurt or there's not a lot of damage. Mm-hmm.
Well, even you see in the culture today, it becoming much more accepted for just a more carnal nature in terms of like just, you mentioned hookup culture. Like I think that is, there's a big wiring even in our culture today where sometimes the whole point of dating is just to hook up with someone. Mm-hmm. And I just think there's a lot of destruction that can go down that path as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that process can be really hard for people as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. people use sex as a shortcut to intimacy. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't want to do the hard work to get to know someone. And I think part of it too, and that's where we have to really be honest with each other. Like you were talking about, like with apps, people say, well, I'm going to be on this to win the breakup or to do this. I think there's a really dangerous element to dating in which we use each other.
Yeah.
I'm going to use this person so I don't feel alone.
Yeah.
I'm going to use this person to feed my ego. I'm going to use this person as an object of flesh to satisfy a carnal craving. I'm going to use. I think that's where damage really happens. Is where instead of honoring each other, we use each other.
And that speaks to the intentionality that you would bring into a dating process as someone who's following Jesus. Like, no, I'm looking at my brother or sister or whoever I'm dating as an actual human being who has value and worth, and they're not just there to satisfy my own means, which is just a precursor to what marriage really is, which is I'm getting married because I love this person and I want to lay down my life to serve that person. The roots of that go back to the way you even think about dating and how you approach dating to begin with. But that idea is so countercultural to what we experience.
It very is. And I think one of the ways, they always say, like, if you're trying to stay away from big sins, it's like when at the beginning, like when the small little victories. And I actually think a small little thing to pay attention to if you're single is, do you text people just when you feel lonely? And I've been guilty of that. I'm not gonna, but like, I think that is in that small space that you begin to like build integrity and build strength and build like who you are. Is like, do you reach out or just am I just reaching out, or am I texting, or am I doing this because I feel lonely, just to make myself feel better? Because that's what God and friends are for. That's what learning healthy solitude at times is for. And so I just think asking ourselves honest questions about our motives is really important.
It's good. Any last wisdom you want to say before we sign off? There's so much more we could get to. What does the dating process look like? How do you know this is someone you want to continue to spend time with? How do you set healthy boundaries in a relationship? And speaking on loneliness, we're going to end on a cliffhanger. There's a rise now of not just, in dating, there's competition amongst other fellow humans, but now you see the rise of like AI chatbots and like just different things that are also competing for our attention and things like that. And so there's so much more we could get to within this dating world.
Can I say one thing about the chatbot thing?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that we might get into that.
Yeah.
And I just got, since you gave a little shout out on the Words book.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting insights, I don't know. Some people hate John Oliver. I love John Oliver. But he did like this AI thing talking about the danger of chatbots. And I listened to it a few months ago. And he made, like, in passing, this statement that I'm like, oh, I think there's a lot of, like, profundity there, a lot of wisdom there. He said, one of the dangers is we, as human beings, the way we're wired, tend to form a connection with anyone or anything with which we exchange words. And I actually think that's one of the reasons it's really powerful in dating and in friendships to embody in-person relationships and learn to exchange words. And one of the reasons we have to be careful, even as we're moving forward with AI, is because not even just from a sexual craving, but we can form... Words have so much power, and we are so designed for intimacy that even when you exchange words with a machine, connection can form.
On that dystopian note, we're going to wrap up our podcast on dating. If you have questions about the dating process and what that looks like, or just, and they can be practical questions, or if you're trying to like follow Jesus and kind of hack your way through the dating jungle, and you want advice, like write us in, let us know, send us an email to podcast@thex.church. Maybe we'll have a follow-up conversation. I do think there's a lot that we can kind of dig into, especially with AI and more things like that coming out. I don't want to butcher the statistic, but I saw a statistic about like how many people, especially young people, have used a chatbot, and I remember looking at that stat and being like, oh, that's more people than what I realize or have used them. And it's just worthy of a conversation. So thanks for joining us today, guys. I appreciate it, and for being vulnerable and being hopping on here. I hope you appreciate it wherever you're watching from. Thank you for tuning in, and look for us next time on the X Podcast.
Hey guys, it's Russ. Thanks so much for listening. We really believe if we can get around tables instead of behind screens, if we can talk to each other instead of at each other, we can make the world better. To help us do that, here are a few things you can do to help. First, if you haven't yet, leave a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. This helps more than you know. Also, if you have been impacted by the community out of which this podcast comes, that's X Church. Maybe you're local or you've been touched by the messages and impact across the country, even the world. I want to encourage you to support this work. A powerful life principle is to invest in the people and places that invest in you. And so I want to invite you to do that right now by going to thex.church/give. You can give a one-time small gift, a sacrificial gift, or even become a recurring partner. Together, let's keep elevating the conversation, thinking higher, loving deeper, and making the world better. Cheers.